Jiu-Jitsu in Canada. Tell us, man, what's going on there at the moment? Because, you know, we see a little bit and we see some guys on the scene, but how are things up there?
Yeah, I mean, the competition scene's growing. It's been growing, like, you know, over the last few years, like, tremendously. The thing with Canada, we had, like, a little bit of a setback, some of the legalization. I'm sure, you know, we kind of chatted about that before, specifically in this province of Ontario and Quebec.
All right, so I think you need to break this down a bit for us, because we all have this idea that there was some legal issues, but I mean, like, what's going on? Is it still outlawed? You guys have got marijuana, but you don't have jiu-jitsu?
Are you allowed to do jiu-jitsu in Canada?
What's legalized exactly?
I mean, just heel hooks are banned. No, but it's legal. Everything's good now. Tournaments are back on. There was it was just because it's an amateur sport, it had to get reapplied through the governing body, and there had to be appointed sanctioning bodies to approve it. A little bit of controversy over who's taking that over, as there always is. Got a little political, but it's back on. The scene's growing. It's, you know, we got guys competing all over the world now, big names that, you know, we even see on FloGrappling streams all the time now. We're just talking like guys like Florzak from Canada.
Yeah, well, who stands out for you? Canadian Jiu-Jitsu competitors and notable names. Who stands out for you guys?
Dante Leon. Not Leon, Dante Leon.
Of course.
For sure. GFT.
I like to say Cameron Florzak, because I like watching Cameron. He's a brown belt, up-and-comer. He's a Henzo Gracie guy.
Yep.
Where is he? He's in Ontario?
He's from Henzo Gracie, Ottawa. Pat Coogan is awesome. Big school there.
Yeah.
And
like
Dante's from GF Team, right? And another GF Team guy, Jake McKenzie. And I think, I don't know about you guys, but like Dante and Jake, I think a lot of people forget they're Canadian almost.
Yeah, I mean, Jake, I saw him in Brazil when I saw you back in like 2013. He actually opened up a school in Rio or something for a small time.
He did, yeah.
He was one of the first Canadians to do that, and he's been like doing amazing. He was one of the only guys to get silver at the Abu Dhabi World Pro in Jiu-Jitsu history. So,
well, we see these guys leaving Canada to go to bigger schools that are outside of Canada, right? Do you think we'll ever see some of the big names going to Canada to start schools?
I mean, it's tough. Like, the academies are growing in Canada. So, like, I'll give you an example. Like, just where I'm from, Toronto BJJ is probably one of the biggest, most competitive schools. You know, the black belt scene, that's what needs to be cultivated in Canada. So there's not a big, you know, black belt competition scene. So there's not, you know what I mean? Like, it's not so appealing.
Maybe it's the weather.
Yeah, I think it's the weather.
It's not that Brazilian. Nice.
It's not San Diego.
Yeah, it's not San Diego.
And what about Canadians kind of like going out and competing there? And we were talking a little bit there, but how soon do you think we'll see those guys kind of chipping away at the, you know, the dominance between the Brazilians, and will we see a Canadian world champion like we've seen recently with the American world champions?
I think so. I think that we're right there. I think, you know, guys like Jake, girls like Alison Tremblay, you know, Jacinta Nagun from, I think she's in Toronto BJJ now, but like there's people that they're just there. Like Alison Tremblay, in my opinion, like I think she's like a 2-time silver medalist at Worlds, you know, so
maybe then a little bit more potential in the women's divisions.
I think so.
That's interesting to know. Really cool.
Jiu-Jitsu exploding around the world, but sometimes we do forget about Canada, to be honest. I do forget about it sometimes. It doesn't seem like it's. Is it true? It doesn't seem like to me that it's bursting like everywhere else.
I mean,
Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, like I said, it's growing. I feel like it's growing as participants and school base, but the scene is kind of, you know, it may have plateaued a bit.
But the MMA scene is pretty big in Canada, right?
The MMA scene was huge, but it kind of plateaued a bit, you know, because there's not as many UFCs coming to Canada anymore, and a lot of the other MMA organizations basically folded. So you can't cultivate the scene that way without events.
Well, a couple of good Canadians as well. That, again, I think people forget that they're Canadians, because you mentioned the MMA thing, and it just kind of, you know, inspired that thought in my mind. Is the TriStar guys, Ethan Krelenston and Oliver Taza, right?
Yeah.
They're competing out of Fir Sahabi school, but now training extensively with the Danaher guys there at Henzo Gracie's in New York. And I mean, those guys are doing great, right? Brown belts currently still?
Yeah, but that's like exactly what I was talking about earlier. Like, those guys are fighting, representing Canada at ADCC, and like Canadian Jiu-Jitsu media just like ignored it. Like, they didn't do anything about it. Like, there's no talk in like the Canadian forums about these guys blowing them up. There's more talk on Reddit, you know, talking about Ethan's crazy Kimura break or something like that. But you know what I mean? Like,
You like to see a little bit more support from the locals then?
Yeah, for sure.
Get behind your own.
They're focusing more on like, you know, building their own tournaments and like building up their schools, which is great. It's necessary, but there needs to be more of a media presence and more building the athletes and stars. Like years ago, guys like Mark Bocek, were competing regularly. Carlos Newton on the scene, and they were international stars. Competing
Hominick as well.
Yeah, Hominick, all competing in our regular tournaments. And now it's like, I couldn't tell you a lot of the black belts that compete anymore.
Gotcha.
If we put jiu-jitsu in a hockey rink, do you think it would bring out more people?
There's an idea.
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Problem solved.
What do your kids train?
Making
Jiu-jitsu or
Canada
hockey?
great again.
Man, my kids train jiu-jitsu and they play soccer.
There you go. You're
mix of
keeping
it.
them off the ice.
Yeah, well, I wasn't born into a hockey family. Like my cousins played, my brother's not really into it, but my parents are Italian, my wife's Brazilian, so my kids are jiu-jitsu and soccer. That's it.
That's
Not
very
technically
cool.
Canadian. Got it.